right, gentlemen, speak.
Wi-Fi still giving you trouble, Joe?
No, Wi-Fi is good.
Oh, awesome.
Thanks to Trent's help, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, no problem.
Okay, let me see.
And kind of also on the same end with the idea of what is Gamera a cheap Godzilla knockoff? I would argue in the beginning that was the original intent because it was a different company from Toho. They were trying to find something that could compete because the kaiju genre was becoming a bigger thing. And I think in the 90s they were like, okay, we can do something different. We can try and make this its own franchise. And the first one I would argue is arguably the silliest, but it also has a lot of fun doing it. The setup is interesting, the mystery is interesting. The effects are probably the weakest of the three, but
I still thought they were pretty good though. Just in terms of practical effects, I remember that was one thing I was really happy about was just once again the miniatures, and I think Gamera's costume, especially.
Gamera's costume is probably the best effect in the entire arsenal for the first one. A lot of blue screen, but we work with what we got in that era. But it's got a lot of personality. It has a lot of fun. The first time we see Gamera doing his thing in the air is spectacular. We actually had to rewind it because we couldn't keep a straight face originally. But I think it's just a fantastic entry point for people who have never seen Gamera before.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was pretty good. Trent, what did you think about watching the first one?
I mean, don't get mad at me about this, but like I just don't like when generally ground kaiju fights a flying one. And that's what kind of bugged me about it. I thought it was a really interesting movie. I think it was funny that they tried to drug the monster in the beginning. It was great. They drugged him in the Japan dome.
Trying to capture the Gauss, the three little ones. That was kind of cool. Actually, you bring up an interesting point. I think that's one thing that's kind of interesting about these movies is you do have the Gamera fighting a lot of flying monsters, even though he can fly as well. He doesn't really fly in combat. So that's something you don't really see Godzilla deal with too much. He's usually fighting another creature on the ground.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I did like about all these movies that I thought was something that separated it from most of the Godzilla movies we watched is that they actually had kaiju that were small enough that they were a more personal threat for the humans to deal with. They were small enough that they actually had a chance, and it almost seemed like, okay, there were the smaller ones, like in the second movie, you've got all the little like roach things, so I kind of like that the Gauss were like not so big that it was ridiculous, and then there was the looming threat of, okay, there might be a bigger one later. So I kind of like that part of it. But yeah, I think it's weird they like the flying monsters in these movies, which it would have been nice to see more that were just like, on the ground more. So I don't know what was up with that. So I agree. I'm not mad about that. I think that it's unique to these movies at least.
Yeah, and I think it takes a step above like whenever Godzilla fought like Rodan, because I think Rodan's trash.
where he just runs into people.
Yeah, he's just running. Yeah, it's this whole thing. So like I think definitely smaller kaiju made it kind of interesting, and like him clubbing the hell out of one was pretty awesome too.
That's true.
He just gave him the right hook and it was it.
Gamera's had enough.
So one got away.
Nope, not today, man.
No, and one thing I love is that it seems like in Gamera's character, it's just he knows it in his being. Like, I hate the Gauss. Like, I'm going to track them down. Yeah. And admittedly, ultimately, other people might end up being, kind of collateral damage because of that. Because Gamera definitely, I don't know. Do you think that in these movies as a whole, that Gamera was a little inconsistent in terms of that? Because they have some moments where it's like, oh, he definitely like protects the people, certain people, and like he does go out of his way to, but then there are other times where he did kill people. So he's clearly so dead set on his goal that he's not like, I always thought he was going to be more friendly as opposed to like Godzilla, maybe going out of his way to literally save all the civilians and all the people, but that's not really the case. It seems like when he's less focused, I don't know, that seems to be more damage done.
He seems to have tunnel vision where it's like, okay, I'm going to go after this thing no matter what, and if you get in the way, well,
too bad.
Yeah, sorry. I think later on, we'll talk more about this in the other two movies, but I think there's kind of this sense of, I guess the best way I could describe it would be world weariness, where it's like, okay, I'm protecting you, but if you're going to keep destroying the things that I'm trying to protect.
Oh, you know what? That's a good point. And that's definitely a theme, that's running clearly through all these movies, which I feel like there are some parallels that we've seen with some other Godzilla movies, especially I'm guessing the Mothra trilogy, which I might want to watch next now. I do. That sounds cool. I like Mothra. I know Justin doesn't. Stop motion stuff. So, yeah, I think overall the CGI didn't bother me too much for what was there. I think it bothered me a little more in the third movie.
Oh, for sure.
Which I don't know. Well, I want to talk about the third movie. I know Justin's excited to talk about the third movie and my thoughts on it.
There's a lot to unpack in the third movie.
Yeah, but I don't know. Is there anything else we want to say about Legion? I think it was my favorite, but because mostly of the monster and how they worked with them. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
I mean, it was definitely my favorite. Of the three, it's definitely my favorite. Like it was such a good fight. Like it was really, really strong in in the plot for the most part. I mean, I think it was cool that they showed the Gamera focus, like the Gamera movies focus more on like the military aspect of it, and you get more of a story with that. And it was, I don't know, I liked it a lot.
Yeah,
that's the point I was getting at.
That's fine. No,
Yeah.
I agree.
I
liked it the most too, mostly just because of the tone and the horror stuff. I didn't expect that, so that's probably why it was my favorite. But what about you, Justin? What do you think?
Yeah, I like the fact that they didn't try to do the same thing twice. They didn't just try to throw something new in there. They really thought about how the fight would work and how it would transition. I thought this one was a little bit more of a slower burn in terms of payoff because it felt kind of like a weird movie. And then once everything started tying together at the end, it got really good and it picked up a lot quicker. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but it's definitely illustrates one of my favorite things about this franchise is it learns and it grows, which I think is really, really cool to see.
Now, you make a good point. That's one thing about all these movies, that they're all different. Like, you don't get the exact same thing over again, because transitioning into talking about the third movie, which when I look at my title here, it's Gamera 3, Revenge of Iris.
Iris, right.
Iris. Talk about different. Well,
extremely
very different. I would say. I mean, I know you said you thought the second movie was weird, Justin, but third movie takes the cake.
Oh no!
But I think the third movie has definitely a lot of the most interesting elements. For sure. It's got the most creative story, and the unique angle because. Well, I was initially worried about this one because the second movie was so different. And then I was like, I saw briefly looking at it that, it's just going to be sort of we're going to wrap things up now as a trilogy and we're just going to have the Gauss come back. And so he's going to have to fight Gauss again or something. Okay, so all right. But then I like the fact that you've got the whole angle, which I know some Godzilla movies have explored it a little, but I don't know if they've gone to this degree of.
No, never this direct.
Where you've got you've got the civilian on the ground, you see, the little girl, and what happens when the monster comes in? Gamera, a lot of people have accepted him more as the savior now, but no, this girl hates him because her parents were lost in the fight because of Gamera. So it's like, it's sort of playing with something a little complex about, how we look at heroes and responsibility. And this girl basically wanting to swear revenge, and she discovers, I watched this one more recently, so I remember the plot better. She kind of finds the shrine, and there's this creature in there, which is, she gives the same name, but I think was it her cat?
Yes,
that got killed.
And that's what scared the hell out of me about it, because all I had was the Revenge Iris, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, he's fighting a giant cat. I'm freaking out. Like, I'm like, I don't want to watch a movie where he fights a giant cat.
Look, you guys are doing so good. Why'd you? Oh no, the cat's gonna be found as a mutant. And you know what? This, I mean, it reminds me a lot of one of my favorite Godzilla movies, Biollante.
I was gonna say this is the Biollante of the franchise.
It's very Biollante because you've got the human element. You've got somebody who sort of wants revenge, and they're tying it into kind of create a monster that at least subconsciously is driven by hate. It's just there's a lot of really cool abstract ideas in display with some interesting visuals, and so there's a lot of cool metaphorical stuff going on. And they kind of tie a little bit more into the lore and the fact that there might have been these other creatures, and there was this other civilization that may have created Gamera, so that they start kind of tying that into the Atlantean stuff. They don't go too much into it. There's still a lot of mystery, but once again, they're tying it a little more into the lore. But there's more characters, and the girl, she finds that creature and she names it after the cat, which I thought was a cool touch. And the creature, the Irish creature, is really interesting because it's also kind of creepy.
It's like Darkest Timeline ET.
It's like, because it's, and the thing, that's a good point though, because the interesting thing about Iris for me as a monster is that I didn't really see it exactly as a clear villain, because it was more motivated by the girl and her. It was almost like a sympathetic thing,
Yeah,
they got that relationship,
almost like
symbiotic.
Almost,
rather.
yeah, I was gonna say almost like an emotional support animal, where it's like, okay, you are upset, I am upset. How can I help you?
Yes, and so the creature like sees her as like a mother figure, and so okay, she's gonna want to make this person happy, have good intentions, or is it a little more nefarious? So I think the fact that Iris is a little more ambiguous, and it's so I know I'm talking more, guys, but
You're good.
I know much like Legion, I love the fact that this thing is so alien and the design's so creative. And weird note too, because we were complaining about CGI before. This one definitely uses the most CGI
Absolutely.
for Iris because it's transforming and whatnot, which I think was cool. I didn't think once again it looked terrible.
No,
but it's still 90s CGI, and I believe when I was gleaning, this one won like an award for best special effects or something.
Did it?
Yeah,
for the 90s, I could see it.
I guess, and it's Japan. I don't know exactly what
That's
they're.
crazy.
I didn't think they were terrible, but it was like, one thing I liked about it is the vibrant glow with everything.
Yes,
I love that. It kind of reminds me of like the Abyss or something. I love that early CGI with the translucent stuff.
and that's something that's not really easy to do, especially with kaiju movies, where you'll try and like make it a night scene, and you'll only be able to make out like a portion of the fight.
Mm-hmm.
That's difficult, but this movie really emphasizes like how do we use that in a way that not only makes the fight look great, but also makes sure that you're able to sort of get the right amount of tension.
Mm-hmm. And I think there was a fair amount of tension with this. I liked the fact that there's also sort of like a conspiracy too, where you've got the girl who's kind of tangling with what the
occultists,
the occultists who like they kind of are trying to do things, but then it seems my favorite character was the evil guy who just was
so cartoonishly evil.
He was a straight up like over the top shonen anime villain, but he didn't do anything. He was just like, haha, like this is the end. Like he didn't do anything. He was just there to like psych people out, and he was like really completely committed to being evil at the end, even though it was like I guess he was just wanting to see everything destroyed because he was like an anarchist or something. So it's their motivations weren't clear, but I like the fact that they were very memorable characters at the same time. So Trent, what do you think about all that stuff?
I mean, I think the third one took an interesting perspective in the fact that they're like, we need to make Gamera pay for the fact that it keeps destroying the city.
Mm-hmm.
It literally blew up a city in the last movie. Like,
mm-hmm.
And I think it's weird having a character that is a protagonist for two movies, have everyone just hate it all of a sudden.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what this one was trying to get at in the beginning. And I think it was honestly a really cool CGI dogfight when he first fights him in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was a solid movie. I mean, definitely a very cheesy villain. His final word was, "This is terrifying." Like,
but he was grinning about it.
Yeah.
So it's like you have mixed feelings about it.
All black and he's got rings on. He's
long hair. I'm like,
this is scary before it meets his end.
It's like, so he's like going to show up in Persona, and you're gonna have to like take him down or something.
Oh yes.
I kept thinking like, what anime are you voice acting? Like, and I just like, so he was pretty cool. I did like the fact though that the third movie kind of ties in with like some of the previous other characters.
Mm-hmm.
There were some callbacks to like when Gamera attacked or when this monster attacked. So I like that there was the girl he was connected to, and like I like that there was kind of the almost like each one was sort of the spirit animal avatar where you've got Gamera's and then you've got Iris's girl. So it's like and trying to kind of actually reason with her. Like, and I was actually very scared for her because I felt sympathy for her, and the fact when she's enveloped by this monster that like, maybe it's supporting her, maybe it's just like feeding off her life force when like she comes across it in the forest, and then the soldiers are coming and it's like slowly growing, and it's got the tentacles and stuff. It's got some like vaguely Lovecraftian things going on. It's just it's definitely probably the most creative of all the monsters, and definitely like the most ambitious plot. Definitely trying to go deeper into things. So I liked that. I thought it was a pretty decent conclusion. How'd you guys feel about the ending?
It was not where I was expecting it to go, but I was kind of okay with it.
I was kind of okay with it. I was also a little. The two words are disappointed or mad. I had very mixed feelings about the ending because I thought it was kind of a powerful ending because you got Gamera in the flames and they're kind of enveloping him, and they're like, Gamera's off to save us from the army of Gauss that have been just slowly built up this whole movie. I'm like, so we're going to go to the final conclusion, which kind of feels like Iris almost sidelines kind of what the
big battle
was about, sort of, because Gauss is like the main enemy. But they had two, honestly, much more interesting bad guys other than Gauss already. So it's like, okay, so he's just going to fight like 100,000 1,000 Gauss or whatever. Like, okay, like that still would have been cool to see. And then like, okay, so is Gamera going to make it? Is he not going to make it? Is the fight just going to go on forever? Metaphorically. I mean, it was a cool ending scene, but I was also like, I don't know.
Ended Gamera at that point, so it's I don't know.
Yeah, he was damaged. So yeah, that made me think like maybe Gamera will maybe he'll be able to save the day, but he's not going to make it or something.
I kind of took it as with the he's not alone thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, the people are actually going to more take an active role in actually getting him where he needs to go.
Because he's been accepted again, finally.
Yes.
Okay. I'll tell you one thing. Overall, I really liked this trilogy. I thought it was very solid. I'm trying to think of Godzilla didn't really have any like trilogies per se, right? Like, he had like little series.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a few movies that are kind of loosely connected, but
yeah. So like as
never on this level.
As like a solid narrative throughout 3 movies, I thought Gamera did really good job. Just in terms of like, a bunch of movies in sequence that I thought all were really good. I feel like Godzilla, because he has more movies, he can be a little uneven sometimes, and they're a bit
definitely
disconnected. I'm like, oh yeah, I like this one, but this one's just completely different. So, I liked that. I definitely want to watch more Gamera movies. I was kind of disappointed that there aren't as many, and I feel like,
unfortunately not.
Since we watched the '90s ones, I'm going to go out on a limb and say we might have seen the best that Gamera has to offer.
I'm not sure. I've heard differing opinions on the Showa era. Obviously, I think we made the right move with doing the very first one.
Oh yeah, I definitely want to watch more.
Yeah,
but I heard that there was one in like the 2000s that was.
Yeah, there was Gamera the Brave, which was the other Heisei era film. Mm-hmm. General consensus is it's more or less back to basics. It's a little bit more kid friendly.
Oh,
yeah. Most people are like, it's not that bad. It's just not really stand out.
Well, yeah, I think. I have nothing wrong with Gamera being more kid friendly, and I guess that was the typical idea I was used to. But based on these movies, these weren't really kid friendly, which is kind of why I like them. They were a bit darker. Like, oh yeah, like Gamera's he's the the helpful little person for kids, and not really. Yeah.
When it gets bad, it gets real bad.
Like he's connected to sort of one woman vaguely, but otherwise he's going to take the monster out no matter who's in his way. Except for was it when they were on the bridge? He protected them. Was that in the 3rd movie? Was that there were a couple instances where he did actually like
he's had a few instances where he'll actually stand in, and I think that's speaking to that kind of world weariness I was getting at earlier, where like tired of it. If he knows the people that are actively doing something, he'll have that protector role.
Oh, but you're saying that he's kind of maybe a little tired of protecting all of humanity because of destroying the planet.
Exactly.
Like, do you really deserve all I could give? Or maybe it's one of those things where he's got a symbiotic connection to the planet. And if it's getting injured, is Gamera losing his power? That sort of thing. Maybe that's a possibility.
Yeah.
Because I don't know. Maybe if we watch the older movies, would Gamera be more powerful?
The one thing I liked about 3 that was a direct callback to 2 was the final scene where they're talking about, okay, what if we keep doing this? Gamera is not going to be happy about this, and that's a direct response in 3, which I think is really nice touch, as well as bring back the Gauss and the personal connections and consequences.
Yeah, that's really the only thing that I kind of had. The biggest thing for me that was really a mixed feeling was with the Gauss, because I thought they were pretty decent villains in the first movie, and then they built them up kind of in the 3rd movie, but they were sort of an afterthought, and they were building it up, and I'm like, I wanted to see that final confrontation. So I'm almost like, could we've had a 4th movie, but maybe a 4th movie is unnecessary. But then I'm like, we had a pretty good 3rd movie, so I don't know.
Yeah.
An extra scene where he like just uses his fireball thing to take out the Gauss,
Yeah. I wanted to see him do that damn chest thing again, man. It's from the 2nd movie where he takes all the mana from the earth and his chest
on an exponential level.
Does a command man, yeah.
That thing is crazy. I'm so mad I forgot to say that when we were talking about the 2nd one.
No, that's fine. That's good. Little details come back, but I don't know. It was a really good trilogy. I don't know, any other final thoughts about it, guys? I feel like we covered most of it pretty well.
I was going to say, I think we hit the nail on the head with this one.
Yeah, it was good. What do you think, Trent? You look like you got something else you want to say.
Well, I think kids like Gamera more than Gamera likes kids. Like in the 2nd one, like
that's a really good
he dies, and like everyone's like crying. All the kids are crying about it, and he wakes up and just like leaves.
Well, I remember it was in the 1st one, like the one from the 60s. Like, was it is that Gamera the Invincible? What is that? Gamera the Giant Turtle, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
But Gamera 1. Like the kid loves Gamera, and it's clear that Gamera sort of likes kids. Like he was advertised as this is the monster that likes kids. And these movies, it's just like, eh.
I mean, he pulls the kid out of the kaiju at the end.
But he seems like he's doing it begrudgingly. Like, yeah, I guess this is.
So what you're telling us is basically Gamera is the ultimate curmudgeonly old man.
In the 90s ones, yeah, he seems like a Scrooge turtle. Okay, like
Scrooge. That's what they should have called the series.
Scrooge McGamera. I mean, they just like, but no, really, I don't know if we've talked about it too much, but like just his design. Like, I love how intricate he is with his fangs. Like, he's got the tusks coming out, and I agree with what Trent said. Like, he's not really. I mean, I want to say he's cute, but he's really not. He's actually kind of a scary looking monster.
There's definitely menace there.
There's some menace. Like, I would not want to mess with Gamera. Like, oh, send a little kid to see him. Hey, want to take care of me? Have a picnic, Gamera? Like, I don't know. I feel like
bloodshot eyes and stuff.
Yeah. Like he does not look happy. He doesn't really grin. Like, even how like in the 70s Godzilla slowly morphed into the Cookie Monster. He became like a lovable blob. He became with his big eyes. He's so cute. And I don't know if Gamera ever, at least in these movies, Gamera was scary. But that was a question I was waiting. This is really the biggest question, and more for Justin specifically. But
okay, go on.
You can definitely answer this. Having watched the Gamera movies we've watched thus far,
oh, that's ought to be good.
Would you say that Gamera deserves the title of best boy? Is he a good boy? Is he a good boy? Is he a good boy? Does he deserve his treat? Is he a good boy?
Well, nobody's. Well, nobody's going to be a better. Good as girl goes to Mothra bar none.
Okay. Well, I guess there aren't. How many female kaiju are there even? Like, there's Mothra,
Biollante, Zilla. We don't talk about Zilla.
Oh no. Wow. Yeah, most of the kaiju are like males.
At least so, yeah.
I wonder why that is. Yeah.
There's a couple that unclear, but
I don't know. Do you think I don't think he's a good boy. Like, overall, do you think he serves that?
He serves his role. I think he's got a very pragmatic way of doing things. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think he intentionally means to hurt people, at least most of the time.
He's definitely very focused. You said tunnel vision on his goals. So.
Yeah, like the people that get on the way, it's not that he wanted to hurt them, it's that they were just in the way.
Which, I mean, I guess that's like more of the line of where he is a force for good on some level. Whereas Godzilla, it's like half the time he's stumbling into the monsters, like, well, I don't like you, I'll fight. Or Godzilla's the villain too, and and he just happens to be another threat that doesn't like the monster, and they don't like each other. He doesn't really team up much. Yeah. Or he's a hero when we kind of, as like in a meta sense, we, the audience, see him more as a hero, and then they sort of make him more heroic, sort of like by default. But very rarely is Godzilla, that hero. Although I know they did that in the American ones.
2014, he was probably the most
evident hero.
I was going to say conscientious, I think would be the word I would use. Well, avoids destroying the bridge
and the ships too,
and the ships.
He literally, I think he goes out of his way more in those than Gamera ever did for people.
That's why when the second movie came out and they're like, "Oh yeah, he hurt people," I'm like, "Did we watch the same movie?"
No, he was like literally he went out of his way to not hurt anybody. Like, Godzilla's like doing tiptoes, like, nope, I won't step on your tank. Like, yeah, definitely the most conscientious house guest ever, that Godzilla.
Pretty much.
But yeah, no, I think Gamera. I like the fact that Gamera is certainly different enough, and I don't think he is a simple B knockoff of Godzilla. I think he is a more unique monster than I initially suspected.
No, he definitely stands on his own. He's not Gorgo or Yongari or.
We've watched those. See, mark them down, people. If we ever do more podcasts, we got all
definitely.
Yeah, but you don't have to watch Gorgo. It's okay. That's fine. That's acceptable.
If we do it for years, we start running, kind of limited on options. Well, we haven't watched this yet. Sure. Like, Justin's all like, oh yeah, kaiju just says weird monster. Like, in my mind, when I think kaiju, I still think of big, giant, guys in suits. That's generally kaiju. So we got to work through those first before we start
getting too terribly weird, is what you're saying.
I'm just saying we have to watch that first before we try to play.
I am going to be very curious to hear your thoughts on Colossal when we get there.
Yeah, I forget. I think we have decided we're gonna do Big Man Japan.
Yep.
And Troll Hunter, I think, for the next one, whenever that is. And then after that, we'll do Colossal with, was it, 50-Foot Woman.
Yepper.
Yeah, okay. So, yeah, hopefully this summer we'll try to get one or two of these knocked out. And Trent, of course, you're welcome to join in.
Of course, man. I love Troll Hunter, man.
You know, not to go too far into that, but I freaking weird independent movie, whatever it was. But no, and I saw it, I was like, wow, this is a really good movie. I was like, so the chance to watch it again and talk about it, I'm looking forward to that. So definitely, if you want to chime in too, it's good. We don't usually have guests, so
this was fun.
Yeah.
Well, good. I'm glad. I'm really glad I got to be a part of this. Honestly,
thank you. That I like your insight. Oh, and actually, I'm gonna get it recorded so it's more official for me. Okay. Okay. Something else we have to do. The three of us have to do at some point before I get too busy to do anything anymore. Is we have to do I don't know if we'll do a watching and a recording on the same day, but we have to do our Phantasm thing. We're talking about it for years. This is not related to this podcast, but we gotta watch all the Phantasm movies and talk about them because we just gotta do that. That was
okay.
like something.
It's on.
So make it happen.
Yeah.
We'll make it happen. And I have it on here, people. So hold me to it. When did that happen, Joe? You say you're gonna do that. Okay.
That's fine. That's been a topic for a really long time.
I know. I think we mentioned it like 2017.
I was going to say, we've been bouncing around with that for like at least 6 or 7 years now.
And we just haven't had the time to just do it. So I'm like, no, we got to do it.
Full steam ahead.
Yes, finally. Anyway,
yes.
that's it for this one. So say goodbye, guys.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
See you next time, everybody.
It's like, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said Trent.
You did the genie thing.
He did a nod. Yep. Good to go. Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Yep. Leave your comments below, suggestions for future podcasts. And we'll see you later, everybody. Stay magical.